Hello, welcome to Cineverm, a weekly podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria.
And I'm David.
And this week on episode 31, we're discussing Fear Street Part 1, 1994, directed and written by Lee Janik. And here's a quick synopsis. In 1994, a group of teenagers discover that the terrifying events which have haunted their town for generations are all connected, and that they may be the next target. Alright, so I just want to say that I watched these films very late. I was sleep deprived and exhausted, in a horrible mood, and I like the biggest thing that I got from this movie is I don't understand why we watch these movies. So
well, the only reason they caught my attention was because they're big on Netflix. They're still in the top, on Rotten Tomatoes, most discussed, reviewed. They're still in the top 20. And wow. So I was like, all right, lots of people are watching these. Kept seeing stuff about it all over the internet and Reddit and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm gonna check this out. So I watched them all first, and watched them all in one day. And maybe I was just in the right mood. I'm sure we'll hash out our differences, but I didn't hate this first one. Didn't hate it at all. I actually kind of enjoyed the experience.
Yeah.
Not perfect, but
we should point out that this, for anyone who doesn't know what these movies are, it's a trilogy of films that are on Netflix, and I guess they're based on R.L. Stein. Is it like a teen series?
Yeah, I learned today that there are hundreds of, just a ton of books in the Fear Street series that he wrote. So it wasn't just 3 books or 1 book that he wrote. It was a ton. And they had to, the director, which I'll say, the director had to take all dozens and dozens and dozens of stories and condense it all down into 3 movies.
Okay, so the lore.
Yeah, the lore is spread out over all of the books that he wrote, all the Fear Street books, but some of it is invented just to simplify it, to fit into movies.
Okay. Okay. So you've never read any of these books? Okay.
Nope.
Me neither.
Didn't know they existed.
All right. So I guess I want to start with the review portion, just because I feel like I kind of went into this movie knowing that it was a teen horror book series.
Yep.
And I think I've read a couple Goosebumps stories. So I was imagining just maybe 2 notches higher on the violence or gore or whatever from those books, but this film is incredibly violent and sexual. I mean, it's not compared to other horror films, but from what I was imagining, if I just imagine anyone who hears a teen horror story, I think it would be a little less than what this was.
Yeah.
What were your expectations of it? Did you have any? Or
I saw that they were rated R ahead of time, which I was very happy with, because I hate when PG-13 limits a movie. So I was like, oh, look at that. All of them are rated R, even though they're apparently teen movies. That was another thing that we could talk about, is just what I thought was interesting was who are these movies for exactly? What age group? Who are these movies for? But all I knew was, all right, this kind of looks. I watched the trailer, I think, for the first one, and I was like, okay, this looks very nostalgia bait, kind of Stranger Things-esque sort of movie. But I guess I was just intrigued by the R rating, and then the fact that it was 3 movies, but they filmed them all at once and we're just releasing them 1 week after another. So I was like, this is unique enough of a project that I feel like we should talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the creation and the way it was all put together and released is, I think that's probably the most interesting thing about the film trilogy. Uh, I
And the fact that this is really, besides one feature debut that came out in 2014, this is the director's, basically this is her second movie. Like the only
wow.
other things she has directed since 2014 were some episodes of TV shows, including notably the Scream reboot. And so yeah, that's, I mean, this is like her, which again, I will give that to these movies as a plus, is that that's kind of huge. Like you wouldn't, I don't know, like I felt like that's pretty big for like this just being basically her second movie. Pretty
Whoa.
ambitious.
Yeah, so I just looked at Letterboxd and it says she is married to Ross Duffer,
Yes.
co-creator of the hit series Stranger Things.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and I just discovered that earlier today as well. I was like,
Wow.
oh,
So does this feel like, I've never seen Stranger Things, and I guess for people who like Stranger Things,
oh my
like does
god.
this feel comparable to what that show is? Like would they like this?
Yes, I feel like that's. We'll go ahead and give that recommendation. I feel like if you like Stranger Things, you'll definitely like this. It's almost as if Netflix, designed this for you. So yeah, I mean, if you like Stranger Things, you'll definitely like this, even though this is more violent and a little more intense than Stranger Things is. Stranger Things does
Yeah,
not have the violence.
that does
I
have.
mean, it has scary things, but
Yeah.
not like this, really. Um,
All right. Well, I guess let's get into the actual movie. I guess that was kind of like a wide version of the trilogy. So I just want to say I despise this movie. Like
God,
I don't know. I kind of want to hear what you have to say, but let me just get all the frustrations
get
out
it
that I
all
have
out.
first.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just thought it was extremely boring. It
What
was
the?
extremely predictable. Like the writing, I thought was horrible. Like it was
Mm,
just so generic. The whole like 1994 aspect where it's like in the 90s. I don't know, like none of it felt authentic to me or real. It felt cheesy. The performances, like it felt like all these actors, I, I don't know. It was so weird because it was giving me these like flashbacks to so like the first movie set that I was ever on was like this biggish for Alabama production, and it was like this vampire like internet series or something. I don't think it ever got released, but I was working on it, and it was just so strange being like a film fan and then finally being on a set. And like there was a lot of excitement and everyone was like happy to be there, and it was like an amazing feeling. But like I just like just hearing like seeing the performers on that set and the director and stuff, and like all of it was just really bad. And it wasn't like that they sucked or like they weren't intelligent or anything like that. It was just like something creatively was lacking. Like it felt like, it's like those like fan made stuff that you see with this like Star Trek or Star Wars on YouTube.
mm-hmm.
Like everyone has good intentions and they're all doing it for love and passion, but like in the end it still kind of sucks as a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably really mean to say, and I don't mean it in a mean way. It's just my personal taste of films. I feel like this is like the opposite. Like it was weird because I was like, oh my god, I think I might give this a lower rating than Old, because
Oh my
Old
god.
was at least like it was memorable in certain ways and it was like at least a distinct voice, where this felt like 3 episodes of a TV show, and it just horrified me because I hate seeing anything that looks like this or feels like this or is performed like this or sounds like this or is edited like this or is shot like this. Like literally every aspect of this film trilogy, like it annoyed me, and it was I was just frustrated the whole time. But I will say, with this film specifically, and then with this film specifically, I really liked the like queer element of the main actress and her relationship
Mm-hmm.
with Sam. I thought that was really beautiful. I love how it was like a little twist because I like it's kind of interesting. Like this made me think more than anything else in the film, but because they say Sam's name. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess is that a spoiler if I spoil Sam?
Oh God. I mean, probably in the trailers somewhere.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't. Probably not a big deal.
Well, regardless, it's like it was just it made me think about what I automatically assume who's in a relationship with who. And I thought
Right.
that was very interesting, and then I was like, "Wait, why did I automatically assume,
Yeah.
Sam was a certain thing?" And
I.
I love how it kind of made me like self-reflect a little bit. And then
Yes.
the relationship with Sam and the main character, like they're just so cute together, so that's nice. It was nice see like I would have rather just had a simple romantic teen indie film just with them, you know, dealing with cuz I mean, they're dealing with their relationship in the film series, I guess. And yeah, I mean those were the best parts for me. So, what were your thoughts, David?
Well, all right. So I understand. I understand your perspective. Well, sort of do, but then sort of don't. But let me tell you what I really liked about this movie, or why I liked it as I was watching it. I liked the energy that it had. It had a very nice energy about it. Like that I don't know. I guess I don't feel very often when I'm watching movies, especially horror movies or teen movies. I guess I've watched a lot of teen movies recently that are really dour and kind of like depressing, and
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that's kind of where teen movies were moving recently. Just I don't know, just movies about a really depressed main character and a love story that's just really, and then one of them dies, and it's just like I don't know. But I really liked the energy of this movie. It was fun. The aesthetics, although they were derivative, were good. I think it was well shot. I think it had a like a good, consistent aesthetic that was fun to look at. So I think the movie looked good. I thought the acting was good. I'm gonna contradict you on that. Like I wrote down as I was watching this, I was like, dang, these are like just across the board, like all the main actors were really like doing a great job for like such a corny premise. And I feel like the acting of all of them really like made it a lot more convincing. They just took a really goofy story and like made it convincing just by being really likable and natural actors. And I don't know, um, I think a lot of it also, and I'll compliment the writing, maybe not the plot part of it, but like the dialogue, I think was really nice and natural. And I never questioned why someone was, unlike old, for a counter example, I never questioned why someone was talking like that. It was just all very natural how they talked. And I went and looked back and watched her first movie, this director, and the dialogue was similar, but in a bad way. I don't know if we'll ever talk about that, but there's something about the way she writes dialogue that makes sense for teens. I think it works better than with adults. But I don't know. So yeah, I like the acting. I like the energy. I like the editing of it. Just I think that added to the energy like a lot. Is just the really fast, slick editing. Sometimes it was a little too fast to where it was kind of confusing what was going on. Didn't let my brain like process what was going on, and so certain things were confusing. But I mean that was only. I feel like that was really limited. So I mean I'm glad they made it R-rated. I liked the violence. I don't know. I know you're not a fan of slasher movies in general, or
Yeah.
movie violence, but as far as movie violence goes, I think again, I would say that's something this director does well, is makes it actually intense or uncomfortable, even though it might be silly, but it's still, in a silly movie or context, it's like, dang, like that death was kind of actually uncomfortable to watch, and uh, I noticed the same thing in her first movie as well, like the gore and things like of that nature were like really well done and like actually uncomfortable. So I don't know. I feel like she's got a lot going for her, I guess, the director, and so I felt all of that in this movie, and yeah, so that's why I thought it was an enjoyable experience. I mean,
And
negatives that I didn't mention that we haven't mentioned, like the music, they went
Oh
way,
my
way,
gosh.
way, way, way overboard with the
Jesus.
soundtrack. There was literally there was one scene montage like this at the beginning when they're going to school where literally it's a new song every 10 seconds. When it goes, one shot shows one character, it's playing one song, and then it switches to the next character and it immediately switches to a different song in the soundtrack. Then the character
Yep.
gets on a bus and there's a different song, and then she puts on her headphones so that she can listen to a different song, and it's just like, oh my god, stop.
Yep.
So that
Yep.
was, I'll definitely give you that, like that was annoying and not well done, too much. So I don't know. I guess that's all I'll say for now. But any, where do you want to go from there?
Oh, I I mean, I would. I guess I already said my whole spiel in the beginning. I just wanted to. I don't know. Like, I just want to rebuke everything you said, but I mean, that's how you felt, so it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. This maybe what's good about movies like this. It's like it's gonna hit at the maybe our main aesthetic differences or biases, because I think I am I'll just go ahead and say I'm very biased towards a certain aesthetic in movies,
Yeah.
like a certain editing style, a certain
Yeah.
cinematography. I'm biased towards it, and I feel like you're biased against like this genre maybe in general, or I don't know.
Yeah. Did this like if someone were to tell you this was just a show, like it would feel exactly the same to
Hmm.
what you would expect? You think maybe that's why
Oh,
you enjoy it more?
you
Like,
feel like that's a downside, that it's like there isn't anything that makes it cinema versus like if it was just like a TV show.
yeah, it feels like as soon as I finished this one and part two and part three, it just felt like it just vacated my brain. Like it was just
Hmm.
gone. Like it was just like it was like watching a YouTube video
Oh, okay.
amount of depth for me. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't know. I guess we could get into the spoilers. So how about let's give our reviews. I feel like we kind of covered the general. Actually, one thing, because I guess I would want to know from your perspective, how did you think it covered the '90s aesthetic? Because that's kind of each film has its own vibe.
Oh,
What did
yeah.
you think about this film's '90s vibe?
I
Did they
mean,
nail it?
I I thought it was fine. Like, I don't know. I wasn't bothered by it exactly. I I don't
I mean, it
know.
was just
I don't
like
have much to say. I
songs.
mean, I was literally just I was a little kid. I was a toddler at this point in the 90s, so I can't
Yeah.
really attest to how accurate the aesthetics were, but I mean, they were nice to look at. I thought it was nice.
Mm.
Besides the music, it wasn't really beating your head with it. I don't know. Do you feel like there
Yeah.
was something else about it that was just way too much? Like just the posters or the in their rooms or the clothes or anything like that? Or
It was. It was. I think it was just multiple issues. I think just the director. Like I just think they. I don't know if it was just because it was three films and maybe it was just too much for a second film. On like all three of these on your plate. But I just thought like the set designs were horrible. I thought
what?
the costumes were bad. I thought like I don't know, the whole vibe of it just felt like it just felt fake. Like it felt like a high school play with
Hmm.
I don't know, but like I said, I really disliked it. I
Do
mean,
you?
it felt very self-aware of itself, which is
Yeah.
usually cool, but this felt like I don't know. This movie, oddly enough, the thing I keep thinking about is that maybe I was a little too harsh on Black Widow
Yeah.
and all Marvel films because this is like I feel like this film was kind of aiming for that kind of sense of humor. Like every time there was whatever violent action or horrifying event, every character has like some rebuttal or like one-liner or
Uh,
some snarky line, and I was not aware how annoying that could be in a film. I just thought like I just assumed like what Marvel does with their one-liners was easy, but this is clearly showing that that is not an easy task because this movie, like, it didn't nail a single line of humor for me. So I don't know. I
yeah. I
think
mean, I don't remember if I was ever funny to me necessarily, but none of it felt that awkward to me. I mean, the dialogue just in general felt very nice to me, just very smooth, and lots of the things the character said, I was like, that's exactly how this teenager would say that. Like just the
Yeah.
certain phrases, and I was like, that's nice. That's nice. They're actually talking like teenagers.
Yeah, I just guess like the horror movies of the 90s, they have a certain feel that I feel like this film is thinking that it's getting or trying
Mm.
by doing a lot of stuff, but it doesn't at all feel like a 90s film. Like I don't know, there's something about like older films that just have this pace, or I guess it's the editing how you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was just so it was like blisteringly fast
Oh
and
yeah.
not really in a good way for me.
Yeah. No, it definitely didn't feel like a 90s movie. It very, really definitely felt like a movie of this moment.
Yeah.
Very, very a movie for people with short attention spans, which is,
Yeah.
I think, is fine every once in a while in a movie. I think it's if that's your audience and that's the thing you're going for, then like if it's intentional, then
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
All right, man. Well, what would you rate this film?
All right.
Part 1.
I oh god, you're gonna hate me, but I am gonna give it a 7.
Oh
out of
my
10.
god.
Because I just thought, all right, my experience of this, my enjoyment of this movie was above average. It wasn't like a 5 out of 10 movie, because I mean it carried with me a little bit. I don't know, not the second. I mean I feel like it kind of got ruined a little bit by the second and third movies, but if
Yeah.
this was just a movie that just came out by itself and I didn't know how the story was going to continue or what they were going to do in the future, then yeah, I'd be pretty like optimistic to see what this director was going to continue doing. It was, yeah, I'm gonna stick with a 7, maybe like a really soft 7, close to a 6, but a 7, because I would actually be tempted to watch this movie again just to see if it had the same effect on me, or if it was just the editing that, making you like the first time I watch it, it made it entertaining. But if I watched it a second time, it would just totally fall apart because I knew where the story went. But
Yeah.
what is your
gosh,
rating?
a 7 out of 10. Jeez. I need to look at my rating system because I'm struggling. Because
Mhm.
I keep feeling like I'm giving films higher than I want to in my soul.
Mhm.
And I feel like I was way too harsh on Old. I think I
Yeah.
would go back and give that a 4 out of 10 instead of a 2 out of 10.
Okay.
All right, I think I yeah, I think this is a oh my gosh. I'm reading my like synopsis of the score. Like I don't know, putrid is a pretty harsh word.
Oh, is that in your 1 out of 10 criteria?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is this is would I recommend this to a fan of the genre? Okay, I think this is a 3 out of 10.
All right.
No, see,
Oh,
it has to be worse than it's a 2 out of 10.
all right.
No, it's
Oh no.
all right. I'm just gonna stick with my gut. When I finished this first film, it was a 1 out of 10.
Yeah, that's gonna be your
I'm locking it in.
final answer. 1 out of 10. Damn.
Yeah, I it felt like a waste of time to me
Damn.
for what I value in films.
Gotcha.
Besides the main relationship. But anyways, we can get to the spoilers. So that concludes our review portion of Fear Street Part 1, 1994. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and you can email us at cineverm@yahoo.com. All right, let's spoil this thing. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, there's not a ton to talk about in depth with it because it is very like basic as far as the plot
Yeah.
and everything. I mean, it's not, which I don't think is that bad. It's just that there's not much to like discuss about spoilers wise, because
Yeah.
because this movie doesn't really conclude at the end, so there's not really there's not really much of a conclusion.
Yeah, I guess we can lay the groundwork. So in this film, what did you like? Did you enjoy the whole Sunnyvale, Sunnyside, or whatever Mambo
I
Jambo?
I thought, all right, they're going for It's another thing that I think I'm biased towards is if someone can pull off a mix of like cartoonishness and also really like intensity, I always like admire that. Like they're doing if you can somehow make both work in a movie, which I think it did in this movie, then I like that. That's kind of cool. That like obviously it's almost like a comic book sort of level of like reality that we're dealing with, with the Sunnyvale, Shady Side, the murders that you're like, all right, if this was happening in a real town, everyone would be investigating. This would be like a national story all the time. Like what is happening in this small town, which they sort of show that on the news a little bit. But like
Yeah.
more people than just some people like on AOL chat would be investigating this and trying to figure out what the heck is happening in this town. And then also, uh, there would be many over these years. If it started in 1666, probably someone would have figured it out by now, what was happening, and would have tried to stop it. And then also, like there would be many sightings of these. I just want to call them monsters. These mini monsters. There would be many sightings of them, and so people would know. People would be aware of them, and
Yeah.
so yeah, there would be more of a. So yeah, okay. Look, the negative of this stuff is that if you start thinking about it too much, it doesn't make sense because it's basically like a comic book. It's like I mean it's
Well, I think that's offensive to comic books.
well, okay. There are some very complex, deep, nice comic books. I'll give you that, but I mean
This
it's
is
like it's
this is
hard
like
for me
the
to
drama
explain.
channel on YouTube.
No, it's like in that it's if you've seen I mean, kind of Stranger Things, but also
Hmm.
kind of like Sabrina,
Yeah.
The Netflix series, and also God, what's that other show that's based in the same universe? Oh God, Jughead and oh man, it's a TV show that some people like, a teen show about these characters in a very cartoonish universe, like. And so
Hmm.
it's just if you just put yourself in that universe, imagine this is an
Yeah.
alternate universe, then it's fine. You just kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy the
Yeah.
experience of these two towns and their
Yeah.
weird rivalry. But I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't like I didn't like anything about the film, but I guess what I always do in all the reviews is like how why specifically I didn't like it narratively and like what like because
Yeah,
I feel like this film had a lot of little things they could have tied to, like the Sunny Side versus Sunnyvale. Like you're kind of talking about wealth, or like the social structure of like one neighborhood being super nice and one being extremely poor. Like I
yeah,
feel like there's topics there they could have really got into if they wanted to. And it seems like it was just it's like the surface of the surface layer of that
sure.
idea. And then the relationship with Sam and the main character and Sam, like that was kind of also very surface level,
Oh yeah,
like one's not willing to come out and all that stuff. And then yeah, I feel like there was enough like little things I wish they would have just tugged that a little more, which I mean it's like it's right there for the taking, especially like in today's like culture. Like why wouldn't you pull at those strings? And yeah, I don't know.
yeah. With the two towns, they definitely could have done more with that.
Yeah, because I was now that we are talking about it, I was like, well, what town in current America would have it like just murders like this crazily and no one cares? And then I remember,
Chicago.
yeah, I went to Chicago for like some military training thing, like 3 times, and I remember being in my hotel, and like literally the news was like 8 people shot, like just 15 minutes ago, like on a street that I'd like driven by, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then like I was working
Yeah.
in a hospital, and that like the nurse was like, "Yeah, yesterday some guy just walked in with like 8 bullet holes in his chest," and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and he just like sat down waiting at the ER, like like checking in, like nothing happened, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this is insanity. So I feel like they could have grounded it a little better, the whole serial killer thing, but yeah, it does feel very cartoonish, but I guess that's the vibe since it is, I guess, catering towards teenagers.
That's what I'm telling you. It's the vibe. Like it's, I don't want to be negative on a vibe if that's what they were going for. You know, I don't know. And so I feel like that's totally the vibe that they were aiming for. So that's fine. It's, I don't know. It's not and that's what, I guess we could talk more about this maybe in the future in the sequels, and we don't have as much to talk about, but
yeah,
it's a little confusing because it's like, okay, is this movie for adults or teenagers? But
yeah,
I mean, I'll another general, I guess, thing we could talk about is like the rules of these monsters, these killers.
God.
Like, what are the rules exactly? If you stop to think about it, doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense. The big thing was like, okay, they're out in the woods next to the car that crashed, and like this is when it's revealed that like the killer just runs by the kids and smashes the window in the car, and like I don't even remember what happens, but the takeaway that one of the characters tells the other character is that, oh yeah, like they're not after us, like they're after. Oh no, and I think that's when they reveal the takeaway, like, oh yeah, as long as you don't move, they won't kill you or something, or they're after a specific the blood of that one girl. But then later at the hospital, the monsters kills a ton of just workers at the hospital.
Yep.
And you're like, and it's like, what? Why did they kill them?
It's so stupid. Yeah, like there was plenty of scenes where they just walk up to random people and just stab them in the throat, and then in other scenes they're like, "Oh, well, as long as you don't have Sam's blood on you, you're good." That's so idiotic, man.
Yeah, it was a core mechanic. What?
That I just lost so much respect for you.
Oh no!
Oh my God!
Oh no!
You gave this a higher rating than A Quiet Place.
Yeah, why? Because I will defend that. I will defend that for sure. Because A Quiet Place. When I think back about these two movies, I would never watch A Quiet Place Part 2 again for any reason. Really? Wait, are you talking about the second one or the first one?
The second one.
Yeah, okay. I would never watch the second one again for any reason.
Oh my!
You would have to like bribe me to watch that one again, because it was just boring. But this movie,
shot on film though.
I don't care. This movie this movie at least was not boring to me. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch, and that's what movies are primarily, for entertainment.
Yeah.
And then the visual, I will always give a movie extra props if it was at least visually entertaining, and this one I feel like was. So that's my defense.
Okay. But yeah, the whole killer logic, none of that makes sense.
No.
And it doesn't make sense. Well, I guess we haven't talked about the second film, but it's like progressively in each film, it's like the rules just collapse, and it only makes sense during like certain key sequences or whatever. And that's why I'm like, man, whenever I write a horror film or horror novel, like I'm just not gonna care to set up the rules, because once you set them up, you're just like shooting yourself in the foot if you don't follow it. Like I don't know what the point is if you're not gonna follow your own rule.
Right.
So.
What did you think of, like, just randomly, what did you think of the final, like the climax scene in the grocery store? Like, because I really liked that. Like, I thought that was kind of fun. And like that was one of the main, I would say, fun parts of the movie, was that. And I respected him for killing off main characters in the first movie of a trilogy, like killing off several main characters. I was like,
when
good job.
when that Asian girl got her like head was all like sawed through, I
Yeah.
was like, wait, how is she gonna come back?
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
no, wait, this no. Oh my
Yeah.
god! But yeah, the two characters, yeah, and the other guy got like an axe to the face or something.
Yeah, just really brutal deaths, and I was like, good job, because
Yeah.
that I was not expecting that for this kind of movie, because I was thinking they were setting up this whole gang of
Yep.
kids, you know, to kind of continue on, but no, no, I give them props for that. Oh, can I give you? I don't know if you read this, but like apparently the director really wanted that kill of the girl's head going through I think it's a bread cutter, but
Yeah.
bread slicer, and but the art department or something, I don't know, other people working on the film thought that that wasn't at all possible, and so they were like arguing against it, and they were going to try to prove her wrong, and so they brought a watermelon and they tried to put the watermelon through the bread slicer, and they thought that it wouldn't work, but it did. And so
Whoa.
the director was happy, and so they did that death. I just thought that was a silly story.
Oh man. Yeah. The gore in this film does feel like a celebration
Yeah,
of
it was good.
gore.
It was
Like you
good.
can tell she's a gore. What is the word? Like a gore
F-
fiend or gore?
Fanatic.
Yeah, gore
Oh,
fanatic. What is there a
yeah.
term for people who like? I don't know. The point is, you can tell she loves this kind of stuff
Yes. And I
because
love that.
there's always like a close up to every kill shot, which normally in films they don't, or like someone gets slashed in the face with a knife or an
Yeah.
axe, and then you just see the immediate huge rip on their face.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume the makeup and special effects people had like just a shit ton of fun
Yeah.
doing all that stuff.
And yeah, like in other movies, I guess that's why I'm just comparing it to other bunch of other modern slasher horror movies, and it's just like, yeah, they cut away. You know, you never see it, and it's just boring. You're just like, oh, come on, like that's the whole point of this genre. So
Yeah.
show us. And that first murder in the mall was like really like that. It just really struck me for some reason the way it was, like in slow motion. You know, like they slowed it down to like show us that girl getting like tackled and stabbed. You know, and the blood
In the
was like
chest.
cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, rip in the slow motion, and the blood was like coming out. You know, and it's just like oof. Oh man, I like this.
Yeah.
I, you
I
know, they
mean, to
didn't.
me it felt gross, but I guess I don't really enjoy seeing gore. Like it
Well,
doesn't bother me, but it
yeah,
just makes me like I just start thinking like why would someone like seeing this? Like what kind of thrill? Like I'm thinking like what subconsciously or consciously are you getting out of seeing someone just eviscerated? You know, like
oh yeah.
I
I
don't
could give you
know.
my theories, but yeah, it's just like it's the whole genre. It's just it gives you a pleasure seeing something like that happen where you're not in any danger. Like I just feel like that just gives your brain a huge pleasure where you're seeing something that would be
Yeah.
really horrible to see in real life, but
Yeah.
there's no danger to it. It gives your brain a little boost because you're like, oh, like I'm that's if I don't know. I think there's also like some aspect to it where it you feel like you would like you're a survivor, you know, like you're oh just by watching this your brain thinks, oh, like at least I'm surviving this, and if this happened to me, like I would know what to do, or you know, you're constantly thinking like,
Mm.
oh, what would I have done differently, and oh, I would have done this differently and survived this or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a
I,
lot to
I
it.
guess I guess my history, like having worked in hospitals and
Yeah.
seeing real patients with injuries like
Mm-hmm.
this or worse, or just videos or real clips, or like it's kind
Yeah.
of weird. Like I kind of think about those real people or real situations, and then I'm like,
Right.
I don't get the point of this. And I guess that's like I guess I like the idea of gore if it's meant to horrify. But I feel like this is how you're saying it's almost entertain like it's made for entertainment. Just like
Right.
an action scene, gets someone's blood pumping. This is the equivalent just with gore, but
Yeah.
I guess that's why it doesn't work for me is that specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very lifeless, and then knowing the true version of it, I'm like, "Oh no."
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that could definitely kill it. I can't wait till
Yeah.
we do our director's series on Quentin Tarantino films.
Well, see,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I think there's something about his stuff where I
Really?
don't know. Like, I've never felt that with Tarantino stuff.
Whoa, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but he has a vibe, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
not a teenage horrible vibe.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I just thought this movie was definitely like more intense all around on average
Oh
than
yeah.
the for sure than the average teen movie, but like even the average horror movie, like it was interesting. There was just a lot of blood, multiple characters vomited. I'm pretty sure, and I made a note that literally in every movie someone vomits, and I was like, oh, that's weird, but
Yeah.
that just kind of like adds to the. I don't know. It just felt, and just the fact that the in the climax the girl had to like eat all these pills like in order to
Oh
survive
yeah.
and die. I was like, wow, this is like really intense.
The pill thing was a cool idea, like a cool
Yeah.
concept. I wish they would have kept going with it. Like what I would have done, like if I had a character doing that, like it would have been cool to get like that whole scene through a like POV shot, like from their perspective as they're like
Oh.
spiraling into this drug. Like there's that scene in like the first Batman Begins where the Scarecrow guy like
Mm-hmm.
sprays him, and then he
Yeah.
starts seeing Scarecrow like this just demonic being. Like
Yeah.
that's what I thought was gonna happen. Like because as soon as you introduce like drugs or pills or anything into a horror film, it's like free game. You can just break reality and just
Mm-hmm.
like turn it up to 12. That's what I
Yeah.
thought they were gonna do, and that's what I would have done. But it was kind of a bummer when she didn't even finish taking the pills. Like she
No.
just
No. They
drowned her
just
in
had to
lobster
drown
juice.
her. Yeah. Which was again like a nice gross out moment. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I just felt like it had a lot extra that you just don't see in the average of this genre of movies that
Yeah.
I enjoyed.
What's
Uh,
what's weird is like literally everything you liked is what I
Dislike.
despised. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the R stuff made it corny and cheesy to me, but
What?
to you it was yeah.
That yeah, to me, I wrote down that it helped me. It helped it not be corny because I feel like if this was just a watered down PG-13 version of this movie, I probably wouldn't have liked it. Because then it's
Oh my
like just
god.
oh come on, like I don't know. Yeah, maybe this is, but then I really like it's like I want to question that more. Like why do you have such a bias against this particular genre of movie?
Well,
I don't know if it's the slasher or just the teen stuff that you like less.
well, I hate any movie that like there was no moment of real emotion for me in this film. Like I didn't emotionally connect with anyone or cared about anybody. There was no
Mm-hmm.
real tension for me. There was no suspense. Like it
Mm.
didn't feel like any of these deaths or like the whole scenario didn't feel real
Yeah.
enough. Like it,
Yeah.
it felt like a movie. It was like if in a movie they were watching a movie, it'd be this movie. Like it felt like a layer of self-awareness multiplied by two, and that's where I kind of stopped liking it. Unless like I guess this was made with that intention, but for me I was
Kinda.
just
I
like,
think it kinda was. I mean, it like a homage. Like it's basically just like an homage movie to
but can you
slasher films.
but can you make an homage when what you're homaging isn't an homage and doesn't have a self-awareness
Wait,
to it?
what do you mean? Like what you're homaging?
Yeah, like so if this is an homage to 90s films, yet it doesn't feel like a 90s film, then is it really an homage or is it just a
I don't.
I don't
I don't
it's
think
just
it
a
is.
perversion of
I
it.
don't think it is an homage to '90s films. I think it's an homage to just slasher films, like mainly from the '80s. I would say.
Yeah.
I
I, w-
think.
I don't think it feels like a slasher film either. It just
Hmm.
I don't know. I it feels like if a 12-year-old watched a slasher film and then they made a slasher film, it'd be this.
I'd be very impressed by that 12-year-old. By that, if they made this, I'd be
And I
super
mean
impressed.
the energy of it. Like it's just
But
it's
okay,
gleeful.
that's what I don't like. Like, it, what's your good version of that though? Because it seems like you're just opposed to that energy, just in general. But
Okay, so
couldn't there be a good version of
yes,
that
the
energy?
the only horror homage that tries to capture an energy from a different film that isn't necessarily serious is Shaun of the Dead and is Hot Fuzz. Like Shaun of the Dead specifically with the zombie genre, and then Hot Fuzz with the cult genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like those films are extremely self-aware, yet and they're extremely trying to capture whatever vibe they're getting, but then they also have their own like mini identity, like there's the film's reality, and then there's the homage, like if you like you've seen those two films, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when Shaun of the Dead, in the beginning it's like it's just a Shaun of the Dead movie, but then once it gets into the zombie stuff, that's when it starts doing the what you expect from a zombie film, but then you still feel its own identity. Same thing with Hot Fuzz, it's doing like action and the like cult thing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only two I can think of that kind of.
What about like Cabin in the Woods? Do you remember that one? Ever seen that
Oh
one?
yeah, I fucking love that movie. Yes, that
You do?
movie.
Okay. Yeah.
But see, that movie was so intelligent with it. Like, well, and even
Yeah.
like even if you weren't to go into the whole like the reality of them manufacturing it all, even the cabin part was good because it felt like all those people felt real, even though they're in this like obviously cheesy generic situation.
So you really didn't like these characters? Like you didn't feel like they were real people?
No, not at
Oh
all.
man,
Dude,
see,
it
I
felt
liked them.
like a
I just
horrible.
like what?
Oh, I forgot. Well,
Sorry.
I was just it felt like a horrible TV show, like just some like amateur, like this is my first show, and I'm not saying that's bad, but it just felt like a very inexperienced. I don't know. It just felt. I don't even know how to phrase it. Like it just felt very cheap, and it didn't feel like it had a purpose, or it didn't feel like it had an identity. Like it was just trying to. Maybe that's because it's based on the Fear Street stuff. I don't know. But even like the Goosebumps movie, the like newest ones, I think there were two of them. Even those, I think are like 6 times better than this film.
What the heck? Yeah, I never saw them, but they looked horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I really liked, like I noted that, like I was surprised how quickly I found these characters likable, even though it didn't have much time to really establish them. I guess I just credit that to like the actors. I just felt like they were all like really top notch, and
Yeah.
the writing. Like I feel like this director is particularly good at writing like teen dialogue, and I saw it in her other movie, even though there were no teens in that movie. Like it was adults, and it came off really weird. But her style of writing is really good for teens, I feel like. And
Really?
I just found them really likable immediately and like believable, most of them. And so I was just like, yeah, I don't know.
I didn't feel like any of the dialogue was realistic for a teenager.
Oh
In
wow.
any time period, but specifically 90s time period. That's the other thing about these three. Like
Mhm.
I don't understand where the 90s or what was the 70s or 60s, like it's just like I don't know. This is like what I would write, just trying to think of like, all right, I need to write something in the 90s. Like this is what would come out, but I don't know.
Yeah.
To me it's not authentic, and it doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel like real teenagers. Like one of the only films that I've seen that captures, well, the one that I can remember just that I watched lately was like mid 90s by Jonah Hill.
Mhm.
Like that felt like teenage energy, where this, I don't know, it just felt like a parody of
Huh.
what.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm having in mind. Maybe I don't like the realistic teen. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I do feel like this is pretty believable to me. Maybe it was kind of turned up a notch, but
Yeah.
it was
Maybe
fine. I don't know.
maybe that's just what you like, man.
Maybe
you're
it
just-
is. Maybe it is. Yeah, because it's just because, and maybe another bias, like I maybe mentioned earlier, was just that I've watched several recent teen movies and just found them really boring. And I was like,
Yeah.
what teenager would like this? Like, this is just very boring and overly emotional. And I'm just like, this is like, a movie for like old people. Like why would teenagers like this? And so I guess I was just, it's just like I was really happy to finally watch a teen movie that actually felt like a movie for teens that they would enjoy and watch. There were a couple scenes I made note that where they got overly emotional, and I was like, teenagers would not be like this in this situation. They would not be like staring each other in the eyes and like speaking romantically to each other like this. It was just too over dramatic. But
Yeah.
besides that couple of moments, I was like, all right, this is probably how a group of teenagers would handle this situation, ridiculous situation.
So wait, do you think maybe your teenage years felt like this?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that.
Okay.
I
Let's
don't,
just
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's not like they reminded me of how I was as a teenager, or how my friends were.
yeah.
God, I grew up went to a Christian high school, so no, like total
Oh
opposite,
man.
total opposite of the high school portrayed in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I don't think so, but I don't know. I just like the energy of it.
Hmm. Interesting. Was there any other, I guess, big points to spoil about this before we move on to Fear Street Part
Honest,
Dos?
no, I don't think so. I think we should just continue on.
All right, so let me get my oh shit, where's my outro? Oh, here it is. All right, so thank you for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review with your thoughts or comments, and if you could share us with friends or family, as that helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema, like Fear Street Part 1. We'll see you next week. Or actually, no, we'll see you in like 5 minutes because we're doing Part 2.
See ya.
Cineverse.